Spinning wheel. There we go. What's up, everybody? Max Finn here. I think we're on episode number 17 for the Unicorn Perspective, the weekly show that was not supposed to be a show. And we had to go back, and I remember my first interview I did was with my friend Josh Elizeche, who's the founder of Snow, and I specifically said on on it, like, we're not going to do this. It's not going to be a podcast. We're not going to turn this into anything. So we had to like remove that from the Spotify and like start episode one at a different one. Um, but yeah, so we have a different Josh today. So we had Josh Elizeche as the first episode, and then Josh Elledge. Got a very close names, and but wildly different topics. Although I don't know if you're familiar with what Josh does with Snow, but they've built that entire business on the back of influencers. Really big
Oh, I love it.
influencers. And so today what we're going to talk about is influencer marketing, but more so on the, kind of the PR, the brand building side of it. How do I build my influence? I think there's different contexts of how people understand influence, right? I think a lot of people hear influencer marketing and influence, they think of Instagram models and people that are just, sharing pictures of a product, right? And you kind of do something different when it comes to developing influence. I'd love to just start off the conversation by hearing, like, when you talk to a prospective client, when you're talking on stage at different events, like, how do you define influence and like what you're helping somebody build?
Right. So, I look at influence as being the ability to invoke action. And the bigger action that you can create across more people, then I look at that as kind of that metric of how much influence someone may have. And so, it's one thing to be a notable person and to be an entertainer, and that's great. But I think when we talk of sheer influence, we want to make sure that that's an influencer that can actually evoke action. And
Yep.
so, and I think that that's really important. If you're a brand, there's in the early days of influencer marketing, say like 4 or 5 years ago, it was a Wild West, and it's gotten a lot more scientific today. So ultimately, as a brand, you want to be very smart about how you're making your investments if you are investing. Now, I can tell you that I don't have a lot of experience with paid influencer engagement. It's kind of not what we do.
Yeah.
We like to focus on micro and macro influencers who are willing to work on either performance or product. So what that means is they'll just say, yeah, man, if you send me a case of that, sure, I'll do some social for you. And so I find that it's a lot less risky. You got to manage more relationships, which is not that hard if you have a good CRM and you have someone that's managing that for you. But I find, like, in terms of if you're a smaller or growth stage startup and you don't want to put $5,000 and bet it on black, right? You're just like, well, let's just play small bets around. It's like you just hedge your bets everywhere. And that way you're not out too much other than, the cost of product or something like that. And trust me, there are a tons of influencers that would be thrilled to talk about and give you a shout out on to their audience in exchange for product. Like, I do that. So, my background into this is just based on experience is that, with Savings Angel, we have a pretty big audience. And yeah, we've worked with a lot of brands. We've charged them a lot of money. But if it's a large brand and it's their PR person that's reaching out to me, I'm always going to return my rate sheet to them and say, here's what I charge for that. However, if it's a small or, earlier stage company and they're like, listen, Josh, we love what you're doing. We love your approach to, helping consumers make smart decisions with their money. Have you ever taken a look at this? If we were to set you up with a free account, would you give us some honest feedback? I know you're super busy. If you really loved it, naturally would be thrilled if you said something, but you're under no obligation to do that. Or, and I will do that. Or, if they send me free physical products, I'd love to do that. Books are a little tough, right? Because
Yeah.
now if you're sending me a book, now I got to read it and stuff.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So it's kind of tough for our author speaker coaches. Like, you want to come up with something that you can give away where it has a lot of immediate value. It can be consumed very, very easily. So if you send me like I've gotten like people send me like cases of energy drinks and stuff like, listen, that's from the time I get that, I'm about 30 seconds away from consuming that entire first can of energy drink. So I instantly have an experience now that I can talk about. So it works well depending on what your product is. I had a dentist that we did some influencer work with, and so he did a free teeth whitening. That's like that's a layup as far as like if you are asking yourself, should I be doing influencer marketing? If you have a product that can be easily visually shown on Instagram, no brainer. Yes, you absolutely need to be doing some sort of influencer outreach and engagement and marketing.
Got it. So the one thing I've always struggled with when it comes to influencer marketing, and we've done a pretty half-assed job of it, and with our brands, we've never done it really well, or invested a lot of time into it. My first company that I ever started was built on influencer marketing, in the sense that like this is way before it became mainstream. This is almost a decade ago. We built a mobile platform that connected brands with micro influencers. So basically their customers, like Domino's come on, Adobe and stuff, and give away, $5, a gift card, a coupon, discount code. People take a picture with the product. And that was great because like there was a natural fit. It was more like talking to their customers, right? People that already consume the product. Where I start to struggle with is the quality control, because it is so easy nowadays to build inauthentic and engaged audiences. And you hear these stories all the time of, I forget who that influencer was on Instagram. This is like 6 months ago, a year ago. She had, millions of followers and got this huge deal to do like a t-shirt brand. And she sold like 3 t-shirts, right?
That's
she had
right.
Literally a million plus people, and 3 of them bought a t-shirt, because there's a lot of people out there who are, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. So like they're building followings for this over here, right? And that might be, the pictures they take of themselves. It might be the motivational stuff they talk about. And then they're kind of trying to shoehorn products in or build brands in over here. And the audience they've built from the content doesn't align to the product they're actually selling. And so that's the one area where I've been like, how do you navigate that? Especially if you're dealing with more volume, because then it's a lot more work to like identify the quality there.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we do. So and we've been able to help a lot of smaller brands with this, and our approach to it is because there's full service influencer agencies, and I'll tell you that my experience is that they're good at what they do, but they're very expensive. The ones that are good at what they do. What we've learned after 6,000 points of data is that we no longer rep clients, and we've really kind of created the only kind of done with you level of service that I've found. But here's what we learned. In doing that, there's certain things that you can look for on the front end. Obviously, you're looking for engagement versus followers. Anyone can buy followers. It's kind of easy to fudge certain numbers, and engagement's going to give you a better, kind of a better thing to look at. But even that, it's not going to be perfect, because you don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if that audience is truly going to be interested in your product or service. So here's what I've experienced. So with Savings Angel, my other company, we've paid over $1 million in commissions when we had a membership program over there. And what we found is that about 40% of our income went to our top 10 producers. Yeah. And you kind of it's almost impossible to know who your superstars are going to be. It's helpful if they have a lot of confidence and they have other brands that they've worked with and been successful with. This is why I recommend you just got to play it as a numbers game. Here's what we typically find. So when we do this work, so we'll advise, coach, strategize, and all that sort of come up with the communication. We definitely, our approach to it is very much leading with giving value first before even making asks. If you're a brand, just try to just invest in the relationship in a way that it's affordable, like it's scalable, it's going to fit your budget, but you just got to give to a bunch of different people. So out of 100 people, generally really rough numbers, what we find is that if you reach out to 100 people, maybe 40 out of 100 are going to respond. Out of that 40, you're going to send maybe 40 product samples. And again, this is really like everyone's going to be different based on what their cost of goods are and all that other stuff, but really rough numbers. 20 of those 40, they're just not going to perform at all. Like, you're not going to get anything out of it. Then out of that 20, the 20 that's remaining, about 10 of them, you're going to be, yeah, it was probably a good use of time. Like, it wasn't, we got a few sales or whatever. We kind of made our money back on that. But it's that final 10%, right? And that's where you make all your money, especially the 2 to 3%. And the 2 to 3%, in my experience, again, all products, I mean, everybody's different. So you really need to work with someone who has a lot of experience with the numbers to craft out something that's going to be a smart business plan. But that 2 to 3% will pay for everybody many, 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 many times over. They get this really great high-ranking piece of content. They just have an audience that it just clicks. And unfortunately, my experience, you can do everything you can to try to select that audience, but you just don't know. It's like dating, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you look at a dating profile and you're like, man, she has everything that I'm looking for. You just don't know until you go out on the date and you're like, ooh, woo, nope, not doing that again. But you don't know until you have to go out. So you have to go out on lots and lots of dates. And then you'll start to, law of averages, you will find those dates in which it's like, listen, this is a really great connection here.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Pareto principle, I think, applies to just about everything in life. And I've talked about this before, and I've told the story so many times I forget the origination of who the first person that told me this was. But it's like the 80-20 principle doesn't just stop at the out of the 100, right? So it's 80-20, but then the 80-20 then applies to the 20. And then it applies to what's left. So we end up with is about, I think it was like 0.04% of your total customers or total pool. It's like 55% of the results come from them. I forget the exact numbers, but it's astounding when you double it down a little bit.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Max, you know this. I mean, sales is the same way. It's like you have to talk with more qualified people. The more qualified people you can get your team to be talking with, that's how you grow and scale a business quickly. Yeah. Or in marketing, right? It's how many qualified eyeballs can you get in front of it. At the end of the day, it's a matter of like doing the best we can to improve the system, improve the funnel, but you just got to get in front of as many. Exposure is everything.
Yep. So where it gets interesting, and I'm curious how you guys handle this, is you can have a direct program where it's kind of direct reach out. It's inbound, outbound. You have a flow where people are coming to you to promote your stuff, or you're reaching out to people to promote your stuff. And it's more in a controlled environment, right? It's measurable. Here's your link. You can track it. But then you have all these outliers where, so for example, I got about a year and a half ago, tried a brand called Not Pot. It's a CBD brand. And I loved it. Like the package, every little detail was just incredible. They sent in this custom tote bag. It was perfect. The website was perfect. And I went on and I did a whole YouTube video about it. I've created content about it, and it's on my YouTube channel. So it's one of the top.
Did they know this ahead of time?
No. So I just organically did it because, and this is kind of the point.
Dream come true.
Yeah. So like I organically did it just because I thought like this is a really cool product, and they're doing everything right that I talk about, from how you brand, how you attract the right person, how you do post-purchase retargeting and follow-up. Now, I'd like to think that I'm responsible for the fact that they're on back order. I'm definitely not. But that being said, like there are probably once a year, twice a year, there are instances like that where I'll see a product or a brand, and they haven't reached out to me. I'm not getting paid or anything. I just want to talk about it. It's great content. So I'm curious, like if you're working with a brand, how are they supposed to handle that? Because that's the other, and just one caveat here. Like one of the struggles I've had with when it comes to influencer marketing is I'm a very data driven person, and I like to have a lot of control over the flow and the process. And so with like Facebook ads, or Google ads, or native, or any of these things, funnels, like I can run VWO and I can set controlled multivariate testing, and I know exactly, hey, this click is going to this variation, it's leading to this result, and I can measure it, track it, quantify it, and then I can replicate it. When you get into this area, it's like you can have these huge home runs, but like I can't put it into a bottle, right? I can't replicate
Yeah.
it, or at least I don't know how to replicate it. Maybe you have stuff that you guys do to best capture that and restructure it.
Yeah, so let me speak from kind of the media side of things.
Yeah.
So professionally, so I've been in the media now over 2,000 times. I've been a syndicated newspaper columnist for 12 years. I've done 700 TV segments in Orlando here
Yep.
alone. So I have a lot of experience with doing this. And so we've helped facilitate thousands and thousands of other media placements for our clients as well. And so here's what I find on this, and this has application to influencer outreach as well. Most business owners way, way overvalue the visibility component to what they do, and they way undervalue the authority component to what they do. Now, in the case of working with influencers, it's not so much about authority, but because there's media you do for authority and there's media you do for visibility.
Yep.
So a podcast is really, really great for visibility. It's going to get you in front of a targeted audience. It's going to be a smaller audience, but there's not a lot of authority to it unless it's like a major, like, top, 100 podcasts.
Yeah, you go on Joe
Kind
Rogan.
of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Now, yeah, you get Joe Rogan, talking. Yes, you're going to want to make sure you put the Joe Rogan logo on your website, right? Because he was promoting it. But most of the time in that case, it's not necessarily an indicator of authority. So in the case of media, if I'm on quoted in USA Today or TechCrunch or something like that, that's a logo that you want to use. So let me just go through like the five benefits to getting that sort of visibility. If I could, again, kind of focus on the media side for a second. So number one is the visibility, but honestly, I don't think it's even the most valuable component of the five. But yes, you get eyeballs and some people trickle in, but see, when those people come to you, they're coming in at the very top of the funnel. They don't know you yet, so they're probably not ready to buy your multi-$1,000 product or whatever. It's going to take a little while to nurture that relationship. So that's an investment in a little bit down the road, a little bit in the future, getting new people in the top of the funnel. That's really good. Now, where we really want to move things along is the people that are already in the funnel. So these are people that already know, like, and trust you a little bit. They're familiar with you. They're comfortable with you. Now, what we want to show them is the validation. So the validation lets people know that they hitched their wagon to the right horse, right? It's not just validating for you when you get that placement. So let's say you're interviewed on TV or, you're quoted in a major tech publication or something like that. That communicates, it's validating for you in a little way, but it validates your tribe. It validates your philosophy. These are the values that we stand for. And here's the validation that our philosophies are popular. Other people agree with us. Everyone is moving toward our way of thinking. And so it develops this esprit de corps within your own community. And it also puts a little bit of pressure on everybody that if they're only engaging at this level with you, what are they missing out on? And it drives a little urgency where they say, uh-oh, Max is getting kind of big here. It's not just us at the nerd table anymore. Like, we all have these fears that someone's going to get too big and then they're going to leave us. And so we're like, wait a minute, let me hook I got to get my hooks in there before he gets too big. His ego gets too big and he's not going to be willing to work with me at all. So it'll provoke that activity. It's great content for when you get those placements and you're seen working with high domain authority influencers or media. You use those logos. Obviously, media logos, high domain authority media logos improve conversion rates. You could A/B test this, and what we find pretty consistently is generally you could see about a 5 to 15% increase in conversion rate on landing pages, checkout pages, anywhere where you're looking for conversions. And again, we've seen that pretty consistently. All I would say is just test it. Go get some media logos, earn some media, and then test it and see what it does for your conversion rate. But if I can increase my income by 15%, just because I did a little bit of PR work or something like that, and we talk about how to get that in just a little bit, but so that's the other benefit. Number 3 is it gives you great content on social media to be able to share to your audience. Like, you want to You want to further amplify those opportunities you get to your own audience and show them and get them sharing that and get them to see that this is so much bigger than just, again, us sitting at the nerd table. Fourth, you're building a relationship with influencers, and relationships with influencers is a great thing to have. My 2000 media appearances, it wasn't different media outlets. It's probably about 50. And I just keep going back to that well over and over and over and over again because I've invested in relationships. And that's great because now we do good stuff for each other. I'm serving the influencer lets me go on their stage. I serve their audience, and I serve first. I never sell. That's some media training that we could talk about too.
Yeah.
And then finally, the SEO is great. One thing, I'm not an SEO guru, but one thing is we get a lot of referrals from SEO gurus who like our service because Google loves backlinks from high domain authority websites that have a track record of not allowing paid opportunities or paid backlinks. So you see like HuffPo and some of these others that had all these guest contributors that were just totally selling out and all these, you could buy these backlinks basically. Google put the kibosh on that. And so that's why you see some of them shutting down those sorts of services. But the stuff that's not viable, like Google super values that kind of stuff. The stuff that you can only earn. Google really loves that stuff. And so, again, long term, if you keep earning those, even with or without the backlink, as I'm told, if Google says, listen, people keep talking about Josh Elledge keeps showing up in this Google News search result. I don't know. There must be something here. Like, even if they don't put that follow backlink there, I would say do it anyway, because Google is smart enough to know that there's something about this Josh guy that we should probably, show a little bit more of him. That's the idea anyway. So that's, and again, all of that is separate from, what most people do PR for, and that's just so I can get more eyeballs.
Totally. So how do people, I guess, like, this is probably the hardest thing for anybody, right? And I guess we can have two conversations here. We can go down two paths. One is if I'm a brand or an individual looking to develop influence, and the other is if I'm a brand or company that wants to work with people that have influence. Or two kind of sides to that coin. If I'm a person and I'm getting started, and I want to start a marketing agency, or I want to start an info product, or I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I need to build influence. Let's say I want to make a caveat here that I actually am qualified to do these things, because I think this is one of the single biggest frustrations for me is people understand the system of how I can rapidly develop influence. Not in the way you probably want to do it, but like how I can like artificially do it, right? There's two ways you can do that. You can artificially build influence that's like low quality, but like from the outside looks really good. And people kind of understand that game, and they're able to build things that they shouldn't be building. They're not the experts in it, and make a lot of money, and then they disappear because they didn't provide any value. So let's assume we're not talking to those people, because I don't want any more of those people creating more info products or courses or selling people. But if you're somebody, if you're somebody over here, if you're a young professional, you're just getting started, but you're really good at something, but nobody knows who you are, you have zero influence, and you got to fight through the noise. Like, what does that process look like? And I know you guys have a whole system. I'm not expecting you to say like do everything like this and you'll be perfect, but just at a high level, like, where do you get started? Where does momentum start?
Yeah. So I think we're in this age where, and we'll talk particularly about, so I have some strong opinions on people that are selling info products. And my suggestion to you would be, you're really going to have to work hard to get people to, like, the conversion rates on info products are just not what they were 4 or 5 years ago. It's tougher. Why? Because we live in an era, Max, the value of this conversation that you and I are having right now, and the person who's watching this is the kind of thing that ages ago, you had to pay a lot of money to be able to get these step-by-step processes. So this is the world we live in now. And so we live in an era of podcasts, of YouTube, of so much crazy valuable content. Consumers know this. And so it's harder for them to say, well, I'm going to pay $1,000 to be able to access this. until, they like what you're doing right here. I think it's absolutely the way you should be doing it. You have to really, I mean, just make it so easy for people to spend time with you. The more time you can spend in proximity with people, that's how you move the needle forward. And so you want to set up systems so you can get people to spend a lot of time with you. So podcasts, YouTube, social media, what can you do to keep eyeballs on you? And the more you can do that, the more the relationship build is going to happen. And then eventually make it super easy for people to kind of go to that next level and just ask yourself, what can I give away for free that maybe in the past or maybe other people today are charging money for? How can I lower the barrier to entry? What can I do pro bono, or what can I give away so that at least people can get to know me? Now, as you build up your experience in your brand, you've got more testimonials, you're getting more user-generated content, you've got more interviews with clients, and you've got more outcomes that you can report, then it will get easier for you. Your conversion rate will get higher. But you have to understand that consumers are at an all-time high of skepticism. I've been studying and leading consumer behavior for 13 years now, and consumers do more due diligence today before they engage in a transactional relationship than ever before. Yep. And that's because we're competing with so much noise out there. So even though nobody does what we do in the world of, PR and visibility and influence, it doesn't matter because the outcome is what people look at. And so that's what we're competing against. We're competing against someone saying, well, should I pay to do more ads? Should I invest more time and listen to more podcasts? Like, these are all solutions that can, what we do is we turn entrepreneurs into media celebrities. Well, there's a lot of ways that someone might say, how do I do that? And so they've got their own ideas. That's what we're competing against. Or we're competing with inaction. And they say, well, maybe that's not real important. So we have to earn that trust by spending time together. So when I studied way back in college, and I did some research on the debate of quality versus quantity time. I found, based on my research and a lot of the readings and studying that I did, that quality time is kind of overrated. It's really just like spending time in proximity. It's just magical spiritual force that just happens when people just spend time together, and relationship just naturally builds in a way that you can't really define it. It's just, I feel comfortable with this person, and comfort together. Yep. Comfort together is what gets people to say, well, let's do this again, or maybe do this at a different level.
It's an interesting point. I think everyone wants to sell online, and everyone wants to shorten that window to conversion. And because of that, they want to skip a bunch of steps and find the lowest hanging fruit of the people that are either most susceptible, most gullible, or they've already done a lot of homework, and you're getting them at the point where they're already ready to pull the trigger and they see something in your ad and buy. What I find interesting is if you think about just the rest of our lives and humans, right? You think about like how you go about your life, how you make decisions, how you make buying decisions, how you talk to people. Like, who are the people that you listen to most? And it's universally for everybody going to be family and close friends, right? That's going to be the first group for pretty much every single human being on the planet. Is if my parents or my sibling or my spouse says, hey, you know what? Like, this is Wawa coffee. Like, I love Wawa. I've been going to Wawa every day for the last 20 years. And that's actually true for me. That holds a lot more weight than me seeing a Wawa ad or me seeing anything from Wawa. And so if you can think about, well, how did that person, how did that friend or family member get to that point of authority in my world? It was because I've been exposed to them day after day, week after week, month after month for years and decades. Yeah. And it's volume. It just, every conversation, every meal, every interaction, every encounter, every phone call, every email, everything has built a level of comfort and trust that I feel confident when they say something, they don't have an ulterior motive, and they're not just saying something for the hell of it, right? They actually believe what they're saying. I can disagree with what they believe, but I can agree that they like actually believe what they believe, right? There's a different thing there. And so if we're in an age where trust is a commodity, right? Because we just don't trust brand. Everyone's skeptical of everything, right?
Yeah.
Especially
Oh,
online on
sure.
Facebook. Trust should be one of the assets we're trying to develop most effectively with consumers. And you
Yeah.
can't do that with a single ad or a single email. It can't be done,
True.
right? It needs to be done over a period of time, over multiple touch points, over multiple videos, over multiple podcasts, over multiple emails, multiple messages across multiple channels. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that, or they understand that, but they're just not willing to accept that that's the reality right now.
Yeah, yeah. To the person who's listening to our conversation, watching our conversation right now, and you were told that you were one funnel away from riches and it didn't work out for you, I want you to know it's not your fault. Like
Yeah.
it's just the way that consumers have evolved. Like that was good advice in the past, and really you could do like a one-page sales letter and it worked pretty well. But today consumers, like they've done research. A really good book on this, by the way, is Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer, where he works with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and so he gets to work with their CMOs and all of their millions and millions of dollars of research and identifying what are consumers doing today. Well, consumers are doing a lot of research.
Yep.
Like we're all like our own like inner Sherlock Holmes, right? And so like if there's a car that you're interested in buying, chances are very good you're going to look at a minimum dozens of pieces of data or articles or YouTube videos, or you're just before you engage, but before I buy a SaaS product, I'm gonna. It's amazing how much research I'll do, and I love that research process because I need to protect myself. And I should say, to our friends who are watching this that are more B2B, or your audience that you are selling to is kind of a little bit higher up on the food chain professionally, in that they're more busy, they're even more protective. Influencers are ridiculously protective of their time. CEOs of successful companies ridiculously protective of their time,
Yep.
and they set up guards to protect them from offers and opportunities and that sort of thing. So for you in particular, it's even more challenging to present yourself in a way and make the opportunity to build a relationship so easy for them, where it's not leading with what's in it for you, but it's all about what can you just do for them without any ask in return. Just start giving away and serving your ideal audience in a way. Ask what is it that they need? What is it that they want? What would they say? Yeah, totally. Love to do that. What can you give them so that you can just really I'm a big fan of Bob Burg's Go Giver philosophy, right? So
Yep.
you find a way to serve your ideal client and don't ask for anything. Maybe after you do some work together, you ask a leading question to find out if they have any interest in that area, and then go from there. Max, I mean, that's how we went from, like, when we really got serious about this. In 4 months' time, we were able to take our sales, our MRR and our sales pipeline from about $20-some thousand a month, monthly recurring revenue, to over $200,000 a month, monthly recurring revenue in our pipeline. When we got really, really serious about, we just need to start giving to everybody. And as a result, it completely changed and transformed our business.
And that's a controversial opinion. I think there's a lot of people who I know who have the school of thought that you should, if you like, let's talk personal brand or just influencer, content producer, right? If you're the figurehead, you should make it as difficult to get to you as possible, and shouldn't give anything away for free, right? I've heard a lot of people pushing this over the last year, 2 years specifically. And to an extent, I do agree that if you give away the farm, it's going to be hard then to sell something for $10,000, $50,000. But I think the risk of that is far outweighed by the upside of, like, if people don't know who you are, people don't have a relationship with you, they're not going to spend 20,000. Like, you can say you're the expert and you can maybe have a past track record and set a really high price, but, like, it's still going to be difficult to resonate and connect and convert with that person. And I think there are way more examples of people who have built large businesses and a lot of success because they gave, and they didn't ask for anything in return, like you talked about, and they answered questions from everybody, and they shared value with everybody. And I've always been on the school of thought of like the mindset that I think most people are going to have, right? Not everyone, most people is if this is all the stuff that he's giving away or she's giving away for free, the paid stuff, it has to be so much better, right? Like if this is what I'm getting just being part of this Facebook group or watching his podcast or his YouTube videos, like imagine what's behind the paywall. It's got to be next level.
Right.
And there's a difference between giving away like value and content for free and giving people direct access to you, right? Those are two different things. Like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and all those people, like they share a lot publicly. Yeah. They talk at a lot of stages. They do documentaries. Buffett talks on CNBC all the time. He's one of the wealthiest men in the world. He's not like saying, hey, if you want to talk to me, you got to pay me, right? On CNBC, he's like, if you want to interview me, you got to pay me. If you want to watch me talk on CNBC, you got to pay me. No, I'm going to share my tips, my advice, and here's my track record over decades. And people are like, well, then when he sells a lunch, people spend $4 million to go to lunch with him because they're like, hey, I've built a relation. I feel like I know Warren Buffett. I've read all his books. I've watched him on TV. I've seen him grow and I've seen his success. And now I'm really successful. And there's an opportunity to sit down with him in person and have lunch with him. I'm willing to pay $4 million for that. I think that's much more in line with the reality than just starting that way from day one and saying, if you want any of my knowledge, like you got to pay basically.
Yeah. So I love that you said there's a difference between, you have to understand, you have to be very thoughtful about what is it that you give away. And so, there is the approach. I remember way back when, kind of learning some sales skills, there's the assume the sale type thing where you just start getting to work and, you just show up. You just show up for work and just start working. Yep. And eventually they're going to be like, hey, why do you keep giving me this stuff? And I mean, if it's someone that you really, really want to work with and your ALV and your conversion rate supports it, then I'd say, go ahead and invest whatever it takes. So I'll go through some of my numbers, just kind of give you an idea, like where our numbers are at, and you can tell me whether or not you think it's a good idea. And then there's also, you have to look at, like I said, your ALV, you have to look at the value of who it is that you're trying to attract. If you're selling a $1 product to consumers, like it's, you're gonna have to come up with something that's going to fit. It's going to make mathematical sense for you to do. Obviously, you're not going to spend an hour with somebody in order to sell them a $1 product. But if your ALV is like $4,000 to $6,000, and you know that right now, if I just reach out to people and ask for a sales appointment, this, Max, is like, early stage entrepreneurs will probably be like, yeah, sure. I'm just trying to figure things out right now. So those people are easy to land. Right. Mm-hmm. But the people that maybe have bigger budgets and they're successful and they got a team or whatever, those people are not like, if you pitch a sales meeting, like 99% of the time, I'm just going to say no. Like I'm going to ignore you, or I'm going to delete your message, or I'm going to spam it, or maybe if I'm really interested, I'll delegate it to someone on my team. But I just can't take those meetings. I just don't have time to do it as much as I'd love to. And so knowing who I am, it's like, well, what things do I respond to and what things do I say? Yeah, absolutely. So if I get someone that emails me and says, listen, we've got a platform, would really love to, in my case, it might be something like, we'd love to, celebrate you for your success and we'd love to interview you on a podcast, or, maybe get a quote from you to share on our social media, or, we'd love to get the chance to do maybe a free, kind of LinkedIn review of your profile or something like that, and give you some actionable ideas. Would that be cool? Like, I'm going to say yes to 100% of those. Like if you're so here's the secret, right? If you are trying to attract someone, let's say you're here and they're here. And by the way, this has nothing to do with the worth of a person or soul or anything. Like it's just professional. Like,
where they're at in their careers.
Right? Yeah. So the way to think about finding. So the movie, I love using this example of like Finding Dory. So Gerald is this. Came out a while ago now.
I love it. It's a great
Gerald
movie.
Is this goofy sea lion. He's just a total, like he's my spirit animal, right? Because he's like totally awkward, total geek, and it's like the cool sea lions want nothing to do with him. He can't get. They don't want him to get on his rock. Yeah. And so. How does he is he able to get on the rock short term? Is that he does an act of service. He goes and fetches a pail for the cool sea lions, right? Now, in this case, they're not very nice sea lions and they're just using them. But in most cases, most successful entrepreneurs I find are really amazing people. Like they love giving. It's just, they have to be protective of their time. So if you lead with service, that is how you improve your associations from I want to hang around with people that are making 7, 8 figures a year. And so if you're not making that level yet, you have to understand that everybody knows the law of associations, right? And so especially the more successful you are, they know how valuable it is to manage your associations. And so that's how you get in, is you serve your way in. And the more you can serve your way in, the higher you can shoot. Like, dude, I'm like doing interviews with billionaires. I'm interviewing Vera Wang in a couple of weeks. I'm like a little peon compared to the level of success that these guys have created. How am I doing that? It's because I'm leading with, I would love to do something nice for you. I have so much respect for what you've created. You want to approach it from like your attitude should be professional respect. Like, I respect what you've created. Fanboying and fangirling is okay to an extent, but you don't want to, you don't want to sell yourself too low level. It's like you want to try to act as somewhat of a peer who admires what they've been able to create, and that almost no one throws away that kind of fan mail.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, that's exactly how we got to where we are. A key part of that was, when you're getting started, nobody knew who we were, and this is 6 years ago getting started, and we were, Jeremy and myself, we got started with our own company, and I was still really good at what I did, but nobody would give you the time of day. We met Kevin Harrington, and
wow.
Kevin, at the time, for just coming off Shark Tank, he's a massive figure, but he didn't have an online presence. Like, for how big he was, he had 20,000 Facebook fans, and he had no email list, no anything. And we said to him, hey, we'd love to help you with this, right? I think the assumption is and then spending 2 years with Kevin, because we started the company together, and seeing we got 50, 60 emails a day that went through us first to go to him, and just seeing every pitch and every person try to talk to him. The assumption a lot of people have is they don't need anything, right? If you've already sold $5.5 billion of products, what could you possibly need? But the reality is the reason that these people, whether it's, Kevin or Cardone or these really big names, they got to where they are because they found the right people who could fill holes in their knowledge or their expertise or their network, and they empowered them, they invested in them, and they reaped a massive reward for doing that, right? They don't try to do everything themselves. You would never become a millionaire or a billionaire by doing everything yourself. You find talented people, you lift them up, and then they make you a ton of money, right? And so with Kevin, hey, he's great at selling. He had incredible investing skills. He had all this massive network, brand, all this stuff. Didn't have the online component, so we brought the online component. He saw that and said, well, guess what? You know what? I get pitched every day by dozens of companies, and all these companies not only want me to invest and they want my name, my brand, but they also want marketing. They want digital, right? Well, I don't have any way to fulfill that. That's just free money for me. Why don't we create a company together and do an agency? And that's what we did. Wow. And we ran that for 2 years. And that gave us a huge leg up. It gave us a massive jump start in a short period of time that was able to then get us in the door with other big companies, other big names. Now we're where we're at today. It was a massive shortcut because we led with how can we help you? And that pattern erupts because every other person's asking, will you invest in my company? Here's my product. Will you invest in it? Will you connect me to Target? Will you connect me to Walmart? Will you get me in the door here? And they don't want to hear that, right? It doesn't even get to them. That's the other thing people need to understand. It's any of these big names, when you email them or reach out to them, it's 9 times out of 10 going to somebody, at least one other person before it goes to them. And if it's just a pitch or a sales tactic, they're never going to see it or hear about it.
Yeah, it's Max, and being able to just get a little meta here, like a little inception. I'm honored to be on this platform right now. This is not your people. I'm a nobody to your people. They don't have a clue who I am. This is truly an honor to be able to serve your audience. I mean, you guys have created a phenomenal amount of success, and this is huge for me to be able to continue to provide service. And that's we're just, again, I think all of us, we're just out earning new relationships on a daily basis. And I think that that's a great way to grow a business. And it's not about, especially for my marketing friends, it's if you can take your sales hat off and put it on a shelf and say, listen, when the first words or your first thoughts that come out of your mind when you get out of bed in the morning is, oh, who am I going to sell to today? Because I got to get that money, right? I'll be honest, like I've been there. That's a hard way to do
It sucks.
business.
Yeah.
It's stressful. And I know what it's like to suffer financially or struggle financially. It sucks. It really does. It just sucks. I've been through bankruptcy. I've lost homes. Like I've failed in business 6 times before Savings Angel went on to do 6 million in revenue. And so it's easier for me to say today, but what I would encourage somebody to do is try to change their mindset where it's, who can I serve today? What value can I bring? And it might feel like more of a long game, right? More farming and as opposed to hunting and gathering. But I promise you that if you're in this for the long haul, like, and you're like, listen, I'm doing this, I'm going to bust this out for 5 years straight. And in 5 years time, I hope to be in a position where I can start to, make all my wildest dreams come true in terms of finances and, lifestyle and that sort of thing. That's not a bad plan.
No.
To be able to do that in 5 years' time. And so if you start in year one with just a lot of authority building, a lot of giving, a lot of teaching, starting to build your tribe, and just keep on investing and giving stuff away, building relationships, networking, give, go to as many events as you can, do nice things for as many people as you can, really focus on taking your brand very seriously, getting new headshots, getting your logos, like all of that stuff put in place. These are the foundational pieces that really matter today. And then, of course, starting to now, build upon your social proof and, starting to collect that user-generated content and reviews and testimonials. And yes, it works, sort of content that you can share with other people. Don't stress about having all of that stuff done in your first 90 days. It's not going to happen. Or if you do, you're probably faking it and people can smell it a mile away.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, if you're getting into this and expecting to make a ton of money in your first month or first year, it's not a good fit, or you need to. And that's the other thing people need to understand is like entrepreneurship is not about instant wins. If you could just start a business and be a millionaire in your first year, every single person in the country would be an entrepreneur, right? It's like you're going to fail way more than you're going to succeed. It's going to take a long time, probably for most people, to ever achieve success. And it's going to be hard kind of maintaining and keeping that success. And that's the risk reward trade-off, right? Like if you're a venture capital investor, not every company you invest in is Facebook. Most of them are not Facebook. So
Right.
if you're Sequoia or Greylock, one of these big, venture capital firms, most investments you make are going to be write-offs. You're going to lose all your money. Then you're going to get, 10, 20%, maybe break even, maybe get a 1x, 2x, but then you're going to have that, 1 to 5%. They're going to be Facebook and Twitter that pay off and have this massive, 100,000, 2,000 to 1 return. I think the other thing to think about there too is just because you've made a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to keep making a lot of money, right? So if you're doing things like you can cut corners and maybe bring in a lot of cash in a maybe inauthentic, inorganic, or unethical way, but if you burn relationships, they're gone, right? So as soon as you burn somebody, as soon as you damage a relationship, that is done forever. And if you're not focused on building genuine relationships, genuine assets, you're not going to build something that's sustainable, because you got to make money not just this year. You got to make money for decades, right? So you need to put something in place that can do that. I'd rather work for 5 years just scraping by and living paycheck to paycheck, maxing out credit cards, which is what I had to do to get to a point where you're comfortable, because I know I actually have a Rolodex and an asset now that I can monetize over the long run, than just thinking short term and being, hey, what can I do right now to bring as much cash as possible? And there were times where you could do that, but it's going to last for a few months, maybe a year, and then you're back to square one. And that's not a way to build an actual business or life.
Yeah. When somebody sees these, oh, I just had $1 million launch or whatever, it's like, it's just not very.
It's toxic.
I
It's
don't
toxic
like
for our
seeing that
community.
stuff, because it's not fair to the person who's just getting started in business and thinking that it's like I just saw someone, it's like, hey, I just launched a new YouTube channel and I got 100,000 subscribers in like 60 days. I'm like, Yeah, but your other channel already has millions. Like, duh, of course you're going to do that. And so,
Context.
what I don't like is they say, well, I did this. You can too. Yeah, you can after you've been at it for about 5 years or so. And so, like, again, if you've ever seen that and you get a little bit of that jealousy or you just feel icky. It's like, man, that doesn't feel fair. Why does it work for them and it's not working for me? It's because you're not really taking into account their whole backstory. Like,
Yeah.
listen, it's a lot easier for me to build a business today and build it up to 6 and 7 figures a year because I've done it already.
Yep.
Like, I have a lot of experience with that. I've made the mistakes already. And trust me, I don't know that you would want to go through the pain and suffering that I've gone through. Having to lose a house and go back and live with your in-laws for 8 months as an adult with 2 kids. Like, that's embarrassing. That's humbling. It sucks. But, Jeremy or Max, again, putting all of that debt on credit cards, but you know that it's the right thing to do. Like, you gained that courage from your backstory, led you to give you the belief that you can do this and that it is worth the investment. Like, we took a $80,000 SBA loan because we had huge opportunities with our company that I'm so glad that we did that, because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to take advantage of the opportunities, but I would not have done that if this were my first venture.
Yeah. I think
like, I'm not going to do that. So,
yeah, it's so important.
It's one of those things, because you have that confidence in yourself. That is such a valuable asset. And that's kind of one of the things that we talk about, like the 4 ways of learning, right? There's learn knowledge, you learn from somebody else. So you're watching this, you're learning from Max and I right now. Number 2 is activity knowledge. You do the thing and you gain the power. And so that's way more powerful than learn knowledge, because now you're testing these principles, and it's like you learn. If you fail, it's really painful to go through, but man, that's so valuable. So when my team or I make mistakes, I really try to flip and see the other side of that and say, wow, well, now we know how not to do that. And like, our influencer marketing, for example, we made some big mistakes doing that over the past couple of years. But now we have 6,000 points of data to tell us what not to do.
Yeah.
And so it's a little easier. Number 3 would be modeling knowledge. And that's where you say, okay, well, Max is telling me about this stuff that he does. So I guess if I do what he does, I should start getting the same results. And that's true. And then finally, number 4 is teaching knowledge. And that's where the student becomes a teacher. And, it's like, by me teaching this stuff, it reaffirms and builds my passion into my beliefs in what it really takes in order for me to become successful. So when you learn things as well to be the teacher, you learn them on a different level, because you're going to be tested on this by your peers, like when you go out and you teach this stuff. So you really pay more attention to, it's not just me just hearing this. I got to teach this in an hour or whatever. Yeah. So all very, very valuable stuff is how we grow.
I love it, man. That is a great way to wrap it up. I don't think I could have put a better bow on it. I know we started a little late. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to make sure I give you the opportunity to tell people how they can learn more about what you have going on, Up My Influence, and anything you want to plug. This is the plug zone, so go for it.
Yeah, sure. Listen, we give away so much stuff. It's like, if you did not, someone watching me did nothing but just dig into all my free pro bono stuff for the next year, and I never even knew you were lurking through all that stuff. Awesome. Happy to be of service. But if you go to upmyinfluence.com, I've got podcasts, I've got YouTube channels, I've got everything for you that I just give away for free. Like I go through exactly how to get in the media, exactly how to become a paid speaker, exactly how to do, I just take everything that everybody else is charging money for. And I just, from my experience, I just like, listen, this is how I do it. And this is how I was able to get these results. And so please learn from me. But that's, upmyinfluence.com, lower left-hand corner. So it has all our social media logos. We have over 100,000 people in our social media, community. And we would love to be able to serve you as well.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put all those links and all those notes in the descriptions when we upload this. So again, man, it was great chatting with you. I definitely think we need to do this again. Maybe we'll do one in person, because we're both in Orlando. We should do an in-person interview. Right. That'd be way more fun and exciting. So we'll try to plan something like that. We'll see everybody next week, same time, same place, for next week's Unicorn Perspective. Thanks, everyone.